Hi everyone, it's Tiffany from the Forget Me Not Homestead, and it's been a really long time since I made a video for our YouTube channel. I'm actually sitting on the floor right now because I usually sit on the floor. I'm really comfortable on the floor, and I just felt like for this video I wanted to be really comfortable and just chat with you guys. For the last, 15 years almost of motherhood, I've had different new moms and even some seasoned moms come up to me and ask me for some advice or a list of things that I would do, maybe life lessons that I would do differently or that I would still choose to do if I could go back and do it again. I had someone approach me more recently and ask me again for a sort of interview of sorts from one large family mom to another mom or someone who's inspired by large families. And so I thought I would share 10 life lessons from me, a mother of many, not because I think that I've done everything right or that I have the right formula for raising children, but rather these are just some things that I have learned for my own motherhood, for our family, that worked for us. Some things didn't work for us. I wanted to share with you some of my own life lessons, and maybe they inspire you. Follow in those methods. Maybe you have better methods than we do or disagree with them completely, and that's perfectly fine. These are just things that I found have worked or have not worked for our family. I'm really not the kind of mother that judges another mom. It's really, if I had a different lifestyle, if I was a single mom, if I had one kid or two kids, I'd probably do things, at least some things, differently. If I was raised differently, I probably would have done some things differently. So we're all coming from different places, and I was very humbled and honored to be asked by moms over the years for my opinion or my advice, because I don't think that I actually have more to share than another mother. I've just been either maybe doing it a little longer than they have, or I've just have more kids that we practice with. So maybe that's why. But anyways, here are some of the things. Let me know if this is content that you like to hear, and if it is, maybe we can do another one. There are probably thousands of life lessons that I've learned, but I tried to pick 10 that were pretty basic this time, that stuck out to me this particular week. So number one for me was I needed to learn to let go as a mom. It actually took me a few years. And what I mean by letting go is there are so many opinions and methods of raising children. Even the high standards I had for my own motherhood. I read so many books when I was pregnant. And then when you become a mother, it's so different sometimes than you expect. And I really had this ideal mother that I wanted to be and how I wanted to raise our children. And some of those methods kind of played out in our life, and other things I really had to learn to let go of. I always dreamed of being very meticulous and having a really very organized home, but in reality, that's just not who I am. That's not really who my husband is. We're very free-spirited, and we've done the minimalism thing, and we kind of do incorporate that, but we also are artists and we're also makers. So we keep collections of things that we love. So I think a part of letting go has to do with letting go of other people's opinions of you, because as a new mom, you will be bombarded with the opinions of others, where your kids should go to school, what you should name your baby, when they should eat their first food. I even share some of that here. And so if you don't feel any of these things apply to you, let them go. It's not for you. But this is what worked for our family and for me. But I think a part of learning to let go is knowing who you are, and knowing who you are as a woman, but also as a mother, because I think those are two separate things, like two separate people that really have to learn to work together. I think that we're always changing and transforming, but I think what's really important is that we accept who we are. That was something I had to learn until I was like, from kid 1 to kid 5. I really felt like I had it all together. I was really aggressively cleaning my house every day and trying to make everything look the way I thought it should and ready if someone just dropped by. But it wasn't really, it was taking so much time from my motherhood and from my children. But the reality is we live here all the time, 24/7, because we homeschool. And our kids don't go off to school. And then I have this big gap in the day where I can just clean and put stuff away. And it stays that way. So as soon as you put things away, things start to come back out of their hiding place. And it gets messy again. And so I had to learn to accept new aspects of what being a mom would look like. And what being a mom would look like for me. I have friends who are very meticulous and they don't really necessarily let their kids make a lot of messes, but their kids are learning to be very responsible and pick up after themselves. Our kids do pick up after themselves, but they also make a lot of mess. So our house is a bit chaotic sometimes. And quite frankly, Yvonne and I are okay with that. So I think I had to let go of this kind of image that didn't really fit us. It didn't really fit my motherhood. It didn't fit our children's childhood. And I love kids to make messes with paint or baking or snow if they bring it in the house and they want to play with it on the table. Like, I'm not very rigid for things like that. So I had to let go of these kind of standards that I felt society had, and just say, you know what, we're just gonna really embrace childhood and I'm going to embrace the person that I am. I really feel I have an artist's heart and I'm just okay with kids making mess. I had to let go of a lot of the opinions of others because not everyone was super supportive that we were having a lot of kids. They thought we were absolutely crazy that we went to have a 4th child. But we didn't discuss all of our family goals with the whole world and even people close to us, because that was kind of something private that Yvonne and I shared. We always wanted a large family. And sometimes the more you share with people, the more freely they give their opinion. So it's not that we were bothered by people's opinion, but when you're pursuing something that is uncommon, like having a large family, and you're constantly bombarded with opinions that kind of, from people that are close to you, that kind of contradict your life goals, and maybe they're not as supportive, it can be discouraging. So we really kept that to ourselves a lot. Sometimes we talked about it. We've always loved kids and we would like a large family, but we didn't specify how many kids. And I think that's just something that each family has to figure out for themselves. So for me, a major life lesson was learning to let go of others' opinions and just being okay even when they gave them. Like, okay, that works for you. We don't really want to live our life the way they do. We have very different goals. So to not let the opinions of others, or even maybe opinions you've held for yourself, shape your whole motherhood. Let go of things that burden you so that you can make room for things that bless you. Number 2 would be homeschooling is life for us. This is not going to be true for everyone. And if I didn't have the grace of God to have a husband that has encouraged homeschooling for us, has happily supported our family so that our kids, I could be home with the kids and homeschool them. It just wouldn't work for us, but it does. And it works really, really well. I've learned so many life lessons from my kids through homeschooling, and they have learned so much more, I feel like, being outside of the classroom. I have friends who grew up going through public school and they loved their experience. So if that's you, that's awesome. That's really great. But this is what works for our family. And We have enjoyed so much the extra time that we've been given. We've enjoyed watching our kids' childhood be prolonged because they're not rushed to grow up or rushing from morning until night to get through activities at school. But their school is so much more free because they're in life school. They're able to do their book work, and they do a lot of it, but they also are able to embrace getting to know our neighbors, getting to know elderly people in our community, getting to know other children in our community. Pretty much people from all ages and stages, they get to interact with throughout the week on a regular basis, and they're very comfortable speaking with people beyond just their peers. And I really love that. They have had the opportunity to have a slow life, very full days, but a slow life. There isn't this rushing about to get on the bus in the morning. There's this kind of languid beauty that comes in the morning. And even those of our kids who get up super early, they really see their days. I feel like their childhood has almost hit a pause button. Homeschooling has drawn out their passions. They have been so free to study the things that they're really passionate about, but like during the day, during the time that they would normally be in a classroom setting and kind of being fed what they need to learn in order to prepare for examinations or passing tests, or just what the government has decided they need to learn. We've been able to expand on that so much more. So for like example, our 5th grader who really should be in 4th grade, he skipped a year, but we could technically be putting him in 7th grade because of how advanced he is in some areas. He has a real passion for the human body and anatomy. So for his science this year, he was able to study specifically human anatomy and the functions of the body. And he is so in love with learning about this. And I feel like he would have missed out. And our younger kids don't have the pressure of going to school for the whole day. They complete their schoolwork probably within about 2 hours every day. And then they have so much time to explore and run around outside. They get at least 2 to 3 hours a day outside, rain or shine. And it's not something that it's not something we force, but it's something that we have incorporated into our curriculum, that the kids get fresh air outside and they love it. So statistically speaking, most children at least in the US, get about 10 minutes or less a day outside. And that was something Yvonne and I also really wanted to avoid, because we want our kids to have a passion for being outside and to be healthy and exercise as they go forward in life. Okay, so third on the list, on the same note as homeschooling, every child that you have will be different. This doesn't apply to you, obviously, if you have one child, but if you have two, and especially if you choose to homeschool, you'll find that maybe one curriculum doesn't work as well for the second child or the third or the fourth, however many children you end up having. I found that every single one of our children are very different. Some of the different books we chose for literature didn't go as well for, or science or math didn't go as well for every child. So what worked really well for our first child did not work at all for our second child. So I actually have fallen in love with that. I love that each of our kids are so different, and that the same thing doesn't work across the board for every child. It might sound like it complicates things when you're homeschooling, that you have to find all these different books and curriculums. But in general, usually a few kids will really connect with the same material, and then some other kids might connect with the same material. So I know that some parents who are homeschooled just choose the same across the board, whether they have 2 kids or 10 kids. But I found, even for us, like a couple of our children have had some learning challenges, and having a variety of curriculum has really helped support their learning experience and helped them get ahead leaps and bounds in their education. So if we were to continue to force a certain curriculum that worked for one child on the next one, I don't think we would have seen the same results and the same enthusiasm to learn as we have. So I think it's great that all children are different, and that might just go without saying, of course, but especially if you homeschool, it's really important to know one thing might not work for the next child. Okay, so this one is a big one for us. I really recommend, as best you can, to live as simply as possible, especially in the beginning of motherhood, when you're figuring things out and when you're still getting a grasp on life. So you don't need all the fancy baby equipment. You don't need all the best, newest outfits unless you can really afford it. I wish if I could go back and tell myself not to go into debt over very simple living things that were completely normal. Everyone told us, every parent goes into debt. Every person has debt. It's normal. I would go back and tell myself, don't be normal. Do differently. Even I have spent years paying off debt that we accrued in the early stages of our parenting, that we thought was okay and would not be a big deal. I would say, instead of giving all your money away to big institutions, live simply and save, and then buy the things you need, and then save until you can buy the things you really want. Living simply might seem, and living or pursuing a debt-free life might not seem like it fits in the category of a motherhood, but for me it does, because not having to worry and stress about finances or just worrying about debt or how you're going to pay bills when you're a very young mother alleviates so much stress from your relationships. It makes you more patient and more carefree in life. So when you live simply, you realize you don't need as much as people or society says we need. We do not need the newest vehicle. We do not need the biggest house. What we need is to have peace, and in our motherhood and as a mom, to not have worry and anxieties. So the less we stress, the better parent and the better mother that we can be for our kids, and the better wife we can be for our spouse, and the better woman we can be for ourselves, and have peace of mind and sleep good at night. So number 5 is a big one, and I'm very passionate about this one because a lot of moms who've come to me over the years say they feel like they're drowning in the overwhelm of motherhood. And I surely understand, because there really is an endless pile of laundry. The more you do, the more will come. There's an endless pile of dishes that just kind of keeps cycling through every day. And that can be overwhelming when you're a new mom. It can be overwhelming when you're a seasoned mom. But one thing that moms have asked me repeatedly is, how do you maintain joy and happiness in the midst of all the work and all the overwhelm and the continuing, like, endless piles of mess and things that happen? And I can honestly say that the thing that carried me through, even when we used to have a lot of debt that we were paying off, and it was stressful when my husband worked 4 jobs and I didn't see him very much. And when I had like 5 little kids under 6, and most of them in diapers, and what has carried me continually is gratitude. Is just really, I know there's a lot of it's like a thing now, the gratitude journals and the gratitude mentality, and it's true. It's not just a trend. It's really important that we practice gratitude, and that when we feel bitterness or overwhelm, if we really let those thoughts take over, that this is too much, I can't handle this, the baby doesn't stop crying, there's so many dishes, my house is never clean. If we allow those thoughts to really run our life and we meditate on those things, those thoughts will run our life. It will really run our attitude. And often it can even run our motherhood into the ground, because we will feel so overwhelmed that it will make us feel broken and so discouraged that we get depressed. So if I start to feel like this is heavy today, or this is a lot of work, or I really try to change my thoughts and how I'm speaking internally and start discussing with myself. I start thanking God for the incredible things that He has done for me, that my kids are healthy. And I'm just so humbled that God would allow me the privilege of being a mom. So there's so many ways that we can be thankful in our heart and really meditate on those things. And when we realize how rich we actually are in the most important things of life, you can't help but feel joy. You really cannot help but feel overwhelmed by the good things in your life. Thoughts are really powerful. And I would say if there's one thing I can really encourage a mom to do, it would be to really get rid of the negative thoughts as fast as you can when they enter, and not to have a toxic positivity. Motherhood is very hard, but when we meditate on the hard, we will feel burdened. So when we meditate on the things to be grateful for, we're going to feel so lighthearted, and we're going to appreciate our days so much more. At the end of my life, I want to look back and really see that I was really thankful for the days that God gave me here on earth, and the time that He allowed me with our kids while they were young and growing up. And that is not easy to do all the time, or if we are really burdened or we're having a very hard year. But I really encourage you that is a real key, not only avoiding depression, but in fact to have a very joyful motherhood is gratitude. Okay, 6 is maybe a touchy subject for some. Every mom makes mistakes. Every father makes mistakes. So don't hear me saying this as a judgment. I've made plenty of mistakes as a mom, but one thing I've learned is it's really important to watch your words as a parent and how you are using your words to build or break your kid. It's so important to focus on building your child up rather than tearing them down. And your words, more than anyone else's, are going to matter to your kid. So they might not show it. You might not think that your words matter. But a harsh word can really stick to your kid for the rest of their life. I had a mother who was very, very encouraging, and I will always be thankful to her for that. She really showered my brother and I with enthusiastic encouragement, even when we were discouraged, like really built us up. And I think if she hadn't done that, I wouldn't even feel confident enough to be a mother of many. Whatever they want to do in life, if they feel like encouraged and built up, they will feel confident to do whatever it is they were made to do, whatever they're passionate about. And they won't feel discouraged by other people's words because they'll know who they are. And a real important thing to remember is that your kids will glean a lot of their identity from who you are saying they are. It doesn't mean that who you say they are is their identity, but children look to us to tell them who they are often. And if you tell a child you're lazy and you're so disobedient and I can't even deal with you, you're such a difficult child, that will stick to them and they will remember that. And even women I've talked to have told me like, oh, my mother told me she's so happy I have such a difficult child now because I was so difficult and I'm getting what I deserve. Well, that's how harsh words pass on generation to generation. And one of us needs to break the cycle. It can be hard if we didn't hear encouraging words growing up. But it's really important that we take the time to work on ourselves and heal wounds from our past so that we can be a light to our children and that we can be encouraging to our children, because as parents, we should always be the safe haven that they come to. And if we're speaking words of life to them, they will trust us and they will want to come and share their heart with us and they'll feel it's a safe place. So watch your words. They really do matter. Speak life. Don't speak brokenness over your kids. Okay, number 7 are the hot topics, okay? There's a lot of hot topics of motherhood. These are the 2 today that I chose to talk about that I personally have had experience with. As a new mom, I was really pressured to let my newborn cry it out. And that was encouragement from women close to me, so that I would feel less burdened, that I would enjoy my motherhood more, I guess, that the baby would be fine. I'm not specifically talking about when you as a mom feel overwhelmed and you need to put the baby down for a few minutes so you can regain composure. There's nothing wrong with that. So don't hear what I'm saying as the same thing. I'm just specifically talking about every night letting your baby cry to hysteria or exhaustion and then go back to sleep without tending to their need. I was really strongly encouraged to do this, and I did try it with our firstborn when he was around a year old. But it didn't feel right to me. And I listened to a doctor years and years later who said, North America, but one of the only places in the world that strongly encourages the separation of mother and child as early as possible after birth. He said, the rest of the world, or the majority of the world, gets it, that a baby has been in your womb for almost 10 months and that they need a lot of skin-to-skin contact right after they're born. We have let some of our babies cry from time to time as they're going to sleep. It's natural to kind of fuss, but crying to exhaustion and hysteria or to the child being overwhelmed, studies or more modern studies show that it can actually cause brain damage to a child or neurological damage. It doesn't tend to make them more independent as adults. It makes them more dependent. Sometimes it can make a child feel like they can't trust their parents. Their emotional and physical needs are not being met. So they just kind of become emotionally stunted. And the more I read things like that, and the more I felt convicted not to let our babies cry it out, the more I just rejected anything that didn't work for us like that. So this is not, like I said, a judgment to any mother who chooses this or that you found this works really well for your kids. But this is the research that I've done, and this is what I've found has worked really well for us over the years. We have had a great attachment kind of parenting with each of our children, and they are fiercely independent today, and they love to, they're really not needy children. So I'll say up until they're about 2 or 3, they have a real attachment to us. After that, they're very independent and confident kids. I realize not every parent can do this. I too, with my first, went right back to school. 2 weeks after I had him, I went full time. I also had a job, and thankfully my mom was available to watch my son for the first year that I was doing that. But I was really up all night long and all day. It wasn't a healthy plan, and I know that most people cannot carry that through. And if you're a single mom, this is something that just might not work for you. But if you can, and this does sound like something that you would prefer to do in your parenting, I strongly recommend it, because it has been a great gift to our family, and to have a more attachment parenting and respond to their need right away. They're very affectionate and confident kids. So, second hot topic would be to feed or not to feed your baby right after they're born. Most mothers that I know have fed their baby cereal within a few weeks after they're born. And so this is not a judgment to you or to them if you feel like this is what works for your family. We chose not to do this because a lot of studies show it can cause allergies, it can lead to chronic disease later in life. that a baby's very fragile digestive system is really made to consume milk for the first 6 months of life. So that is the way we chose. We are a more natural family. We're kind of crunchy, not perfectly natural. So I breastfeed babies and we like to raise our own food, but we'll eat lollipops. So all of our kids have really great digestive systems. We waited until 6 months to introduce any food for them. It seems to have worked very well. They don't really have any allergies, except to like pineapples and kiwis. I have the same allergy, so one of our sons does, but some mothers have told me that they did introduce cereal early on and their kids did end up having a lot of allergies, a lot of digestive issues, even chronic disease. These are some reasons why we avoided it. So number 8 is special to me because it has been almost another child in our family. It is reading a lot and making language a priority. We actually live in Quebec and our family is still learning French. I am English. I grew up in the United States and I came to Canada every summer growing up, but I did not speak French until probably halfway through our marriage. My husband and I have been married almost 16 years, but my husband is French. He's actually bilingual. And our goal originally was when we started having kids, I would speak English, he would speak French to them, so they would be bilingual. But it didn't work out that way so much. My husband had a lot of jobs in the beginning. He wasn't always there. He kind of wanted his kids to understand him when he came home in the few minutes or the couple hours that he got to see them scattered throughout the week. So in the beginning, he didn't really practice that. And then it became kind of a bad habit not to speak his native tongue. We are working more on French because we really, really, really want our kids to have not just 1 or 2 languages, many would be wonderful because language is a gift. On that note, language being a gift, something we practice every week and every day is reading aloud with our kids. We do it. We've read so many novels together, laugh so hard. It's one of the best ways to connect with your kids. So I really recommend turning off the TV at least once a day and just sitting down and reading a good book aloud to your family. Even our 14-year-old absolutely loves engaging with whatever story we're reading still and being a part of that. It's more, even for him, I think, the connection with our family than whatever silly story we're reading. We've read advanced novels, we've read little kids' books. It doesn't really matter, but that kind of time to gather together and share the written word is so special. I would also say speaking to your babies like they're little adults is the best way to develop their language skills. Most of our kids had really great speech and language skills from early on. We spoke to them like we would to a friend or like an adult friend. We didn't speak to them in baby language, and it really helped to develop how words are formed and for things to make more sense. Most of them read very early as well. Really make language a priority in your home. You will be so happy to see how this kind of really pulls your family together and the laughs and the fun and the great memories you'll share reading through stories. So number 9 is to write down your family goals. I would do this even when you're pregnant, maybe with your first. I wish I'd done this earlier on because even I were still figuring it out, and maybe you guys are still figuring it out too, where you're not really sure what you want motherhood to look like. And so this might involve a little bit of goals plus letting go of some things like we talked about earlier, but having goals written down, like what you want your family unit to look like, I think is really important. What do you want your kids to see? Do you want your kids to see affection between you and your spouse? Do you want your kids to see that you guys are good savers, that you're really responsible with finances? Do you want to travel a lot with your family? Like, what are your goals as a family? For us, like 2 main goals were kindness and building relationship within our family unit. So when our kids argue, we always deal with it right away. I have friends who are like, just let them deal with it on their own. But I know large families who are grown today, they're adults, and none of them talk to each other. And I really want to build I want the kids to build very close relationships with each other that carry through into their adulthood. And I think a huge part of that is learning to speak kindly, learning how to resolve issues that come up, knowing how to genuinely not just say sorry, but be sorry when you hurt someone, and learning how to forgive. And I think these are real cornerstones for building a solid relationship. So that is something that even if we're homeschooling, even if I have a phone call, whatever's going on, we pause and we deal with the relationship issue right away. And some of that is because we homeschool and we have these freedoms that we're able to pause our life wherever we are and deal with the relationship things. But it has built such strong relationships within our kids that I really do believe will carry through to their adulthood, because they are all best friends. And the older ones, now that they've practiced this since they were little, really seem to know how to not just say sorry, feel compassion for the other, even if maybe someone did wrong to them, even if someone did wrong to them, to feel forgiveness and to be able to forgive someone so they don't carry that bitterness forward. These were things that were really important to us, knowing how to speak kindly and not mock people. Obviously with kids, this comes up all the time, the little arguments and, maybe not being kind with our words, but we really reiterate it. And it's a family goal of ours to build the important things of life, the things that you can't see with your eyes, but you can feel in your relationships, that they're strong and connected and you have a lifelong friend. That was really important to us. So I really encourage you guys to write down your family goals that you want your family to look like. Maybe you want a large family someday. Maybe you want to have 1 kid so you can travel the world, or 2. Maybe you want to have a family dog. I don't know. It doesn't really matter what your family goals are. They're for you. I would recommend writing them down, because on the hard days, when you don't feel like dealing with a little argument between your kids, when you don't necessarily feel like talking kindly yourself, you can remember one of your goals is to build kindness and respect, and then you will be more amped to focus on that and practice it. So you're a good example to your kids. If your family goal is to travel a lot, maybe when you want to go out to grab a coffee, you'll remember, wait, I want to put that money in savings so that we can travel more. Those are really important goals, and it's important to know your goals. So I highly recommend writing it down, sticking it somewhere you can see, or in your daily journal so you can have that focus. Okay, last and final one. Number 10 is to guide your children. Everyone will have to come up with some kind of disciplinary method that they use with their kids. Even if you just choose not to use any discipline at all, you are still showing an attitude towards how you will correct your kids, whether you do or don't. So for us, what we've learned over the years, and we really have had, and this is the other thing about letting go, we've had a lot of opinions when we were early parents about what is the best method for raising kids. There was a lot of parenting advice we got. So we really kind of had to figure out things for us and what worked, just like most people do. We read a lot of parenting books, and the best method that we adopted for us was to recognize ourselves as guides to our children, that we wanted to guide them to a really well-rounded, healthy life, psychologically, emotionally, spiritually. So for example, when they make a wrong choice with something, our first reaction is usually that we want to sit down and talk with them about why they think that thing might be wrong, because often they come to us and tell us that they did, which is really great because it says they feel safe to tell us, and I'm really thankful for that. They don't always, so if another kid tells us that they did something wrong, well, we still take the time to sit down with them and talk to them about why that thing was wrong, how it doesn't build their relationship or it doesn't build their life. They've had a lot of natural consequences, like, okay, I hurt my friend, so maybe they're not going to want to talk to me. I have to fix what I did by asking forgiveness and maybe working on being kinder to them. We've talked a lot. We don't treat our children like they're babies. So from the time they were quite young, we talked to them maybe at a kid level, but about real life things that really matter to try to guide them in the right direction of making good choices. Honestly, for us, the best, I guess, disciplinary method would be to take time to guide your kids. What I've always told, even I have always discussed that if we choose to have kids, then we need to recognize that it's going to take time. It's going to take time out of our schedule. It's going to take time away from doing things that maybe we really love to do or passionate about, because kids are really worth it. They're the ultimate worth it. You know, when we take time to explain to them, even if it's a long conversation, I've seen our kids' character grow so much from that. Rather than just saying, oh, well, you did this thing that was wrong. Well, you lost that toy, or you can't go see your friend. Speak to them with respect and teach them the why behind choices we make. They really feel respected and they make better choices going forward. I'm super proud of our young adults. I think that they are making incredible progress towards really healthy, well-rounded adults. I don't take credit for that at all. I think that God made them to be wonderful, wonderful kids. And I have just been really honored with having the privilege to be one of the guides in their life. So one of the ways I feel like we become a guide in our kids' life is 3 C's are connection, care, and conversation. I think it's really important that you feel connected to your kid and that they feel connected to you so they feel safe, and also that they respect what you're saying. And I think one of the ways kids learn to respect us is that we are respectful to them. Just because they're little or even throwing a tantrum because they haven't learned to regulate their emotions, they're still looking to us to demonstrate how to be respectful and how to handle a situation that feels very out of control for them. I think if that's something that maybe you struggle with in your kids' relationship with you, is maybe they don't come to you as much, or you feel like they don't want to listen to what you say when you're trying to have a conversation, I would say work on the connection when they're not being disciplined. Work on the connection when there isn't a need for a conversation. Have conversation, have good conversation, take them out on a date, ask them what their favorite thing is, listen to them when they're trying to tell you about school. If they don't want to tell you about school, talk about something different until they kind of crack with wanting to talk to you, and then they start to feel safe and build a connection with you. So one way to start building connection is to actually care about what they're saying, not just I care about their well-being, but you care about what they want to tell you and you take time to listen, because this is like a really busy world we're living in right now. And it's easy to spend hours on our phone, but not so much time giving attention to the people in our life that really need to be heard. It can actually cause a great disconnect in our relationship with our kids when we're both allowed to just kind of be in our own world. So one thing even I do is we do have a time limit on devices a day, and we really try to help our kids respect that as well. And instead not just say, okay, we're taking away the phone, but rather, okay, it's time to connect together. It's time to build relationship, or it's time to read a book together, or to go out somewhere, or to play outside. It's to jump into something that is relationship building from relationship like disconnect with a device. The first 2 C's are connection and care. Connecting with your kid and caring about what actually they care about and listening to them. And the third would be the conversation. So if you build these 2 really strong, the connection and caring about what they care about and listening to them, it will build that strong connection. So you will be seen as a guide in their life. They'll want to hear what you have to say. They'll ask for your advice. That is the kind of parenting method that has worked best. We have not always done that. It took us years to learn what is the style of parenting that would be best with when conflict comes up in our family with kids, when one really like oversteps the boundaries. We're not gentle parenting as in like just do whatever you want and there's no consequences. We are gentle in guiding and connecting with our kids, but a consequence might be, okay, you didn't want to build a relationship with your sister, or you didn't want to fix that. So we cannot go to this birthday party because it's easy to go and build relationship kind of on a surface level that's really lighthearted and fun with, people outside the home. But the hard relationships to build are inside the home, the people that we see every day, when we annoy each other or we disagree with each other, and there's kind of this tug of war of personalities. We're really trying to teach our kids to prioritize the ones that really matter. That's my list of 10 life lessons from the last 15 years of motherhood. If you enjoyed any of this series and you'd like to hear more, please let me know. Have a great day.